The federal government is taking its fight over the Emergencies Act all the way to the Supreme Court. The move is meant to justify the use of the Emergencies Act to clear the convoy protests that gridlocked Ottawa in 2022. The Federal Court of Appeal rejected the government's previous attempt, ruling that the legislation was unlawful and infringed on protesters' charter rights.
Tonight, the same government that froze bank accounts and banned our guns is headed to the Supreme Court, and we get to speak to the people who took them there. My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. First and foremost, two guests today. We're very blessed. First, we are joined by Eddie Cornell, a Canadian veteran who had his bank account frozen for participating in the Freedom Convoy, successfully sued the federal government, resulting in a judge finding the invocation of the Emergencies Act to be illegal and unconstitutional. Eddie, sir, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks.
How's it going,
Eddie?
Eddie?
To be here.
Great to see you.
Nice to see you.
So before I throw the ball to you, I figured I'd do a tiny bit of a intro as to what happened to you. You challenge me anytime you want, because clearly you know better than I do. I'm just did some research and this is what I found. You were part of a multi-applicant challenge against the federal government. You were one of the 4 individuals that actually went after the government. I know Vincent Gercy. I met him at an NCI event. He was part of that suit too. You guys argued that the invocation of the Emergencies Act was both unreasonable and unconstitutional. And on January 23rd, 2024, Justice Richard Mosley agreed with you guys. On January 16, 2026, the Federal Court of Appeal upheld your judgment. But on March 17th, literally 2 days ago, the federal government officially filed for leave to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada. Does that sound right to you?
It does. They just can't take no for an answer. That's it's pretty incredible.
So can
that
you
they would go this far.
Can you explain what that means to you, knowing that obviously you thought this was probably a done deal because it's been dragging for a couple of... Oh, you know what? I'll stop there. What does that mean to you that the government is filing for leave to appeal?
What really got my attention was over the past couple of months, anytime that they referred to the convoy or the protest in Ottawa, was the government doubling down and saying that it was an occupation and that it was illegal. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, they're going to do it. Yeah, I wasn't sure. And then, the very last day, the last minute, they went ahead and did it. So it really wasn't a surprise. I'm disappointed, but it's really not a surprise because this government's been so spiteful and so vindictive for anyone involved in the trucker convoy. They literally want to crush you, and they will stop at nothing.
It's hard not to notice the difference between, a lot of the light sentences from people that we're seeing getting all kinds of, committing all kinds of violent crimes, and then the sentences that they're seeking for, say, Tamara Litch and I forget the other gentleman's name.
Chris Barber.
Yeah. Those be like, what I think they were asking, 7 or 8 years, which is, it's insane. Eddie, so I'm not as up on this story as Nico is. I most of what I know about it is only from doing this show over the last year.
He's a liberal, Eddie, by the way, just so you know. Like I told you.
As long as you're a classical liberal, that's okay.
That's how I define myself.
Okay.
Yes,
No,
classical liberal, common sense liberal. There's a few of us left out there.
Yeah.
So maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about your experience, what happened. I know the broad strokes, but you could fill it in maybe with some details.
Do you want to go back to the trucker convoy itself? Is that what?
If you don't mind, just your experience of it.
Yeah. During the trucker convoy, as you know, it ended badly. But during that last week, they froze our bank accounts. And I knew something was up. And
Was it everyone, or was it
No,
just
I
a
think
few
there was
of the-
like 256 of us that had
Wow,
our accounts frozen.
how did they identify you guys?
Well, that's the question. They've never really said.
Okay.
Maybe because, of a social media post,
Social
or they
media,
saw a
sure.
license number. I don't know, but
It's
they
called
picked people right
geofencing.
across the country. There was people in British Columbia, that donated $5 that they froze their account. So I don't really
Crazy.
know what the methodology was. I think they were just possibly in some cases picking people at random, and maybe people like me that were visible in Ottawa, trying to put me in a weak position. And it was pretty devastating to have all your accounts frozen. In fact, they wanted to freeze all of the insurance on our home and our vehicles. Luckily, that didn't happen. But
Wow.
when it ended, I really had no money to get home for. I lived in New Brunswick at the time, so it's 1,700 kilometers, and I didn't have money for gas. So luckily, some people gave me some cash. I had enough gas to get home. But the problem was going through Quebec. You'd stop to fill up and you go to pay, and they'd be like, "Oh no, we don't take cash." Right? It's like, yeah, but I need gas. So you fill up, right? Luckily, they had where you could just pump and then go pay. And I said, either you take the cash, that's up to you. I'm leaving. And it was quite an ordeal getting home. I'll tell you that. But it was devastating to find out that, there was no means for appeal. You didn't know who to contact to, get your money released. We had no idea how long it would be locked down for.
How long? How long were you locked out of your accounts?
It worked out to be just under a week for me. Others were longer, but we just didn't know.
That's still a long time. You got to eat,
even,
right?
In the Mosley decision, in the beginning, when our legal team was stating what had happened to all of us with our bank accounts frozen, he goes, "Yeah, but it was only for a week." And the judge, kind of gave that look of like it was no big deal. So our attorneys, they said, "Well, let me paint the picture for you. It's -30, middle of winter. People have to travel 1,700 kilometers to get home. They have no means for shelter, no means for food, and they have no means for gas. So it's a problem." And I watched Justice Mosley's face right then and there, and you could see him kind of, I never really looked at it that way.
Yeah.
But that's not even the point.
I knew we'd win is that
go ahead.
he said, in his early life, he was a trucker himself. So I thought that was pretty good. I thought, that might be him trying to tell us something. I don't know, but
nice.
Luckily he did.
The problem with this whole thing is that the fact that it's a week, the fact that it would have been 6 hours is irrelevant. Our government showed that they will crush the cent by freezing people's bank account. That means that they have backdoor deals with banks. So entities that are supposed to be separate from the government are ruled by the government, and they can do that without letting you know. I guarantee, I'm ready to bet that they didn't give you a phone call to say, "Hey, Eddie, by the way, we didn't like the fact that you were at the protest, so we're freezing your account until you go complain to the Supreme Court." I'm sure that they didn't let you know. They didn't send you a text prior. That's the problem. Even if they did that for 6 hours, I don't care. The point in the matter is that people need to realize it's tyrannical. This is what tyrannical governments do. What did you do? Because I was at the Freedom Convoy. I was there. I brought a couple of my friends. I brought my now wife just to say, guys, you guys need to go see this, because it's not going to be, you're going to be able to see what they say on the news and what actually happened, because you would have been there. So let's go so that you guys can experience what it actually is. I've been a long time conspiracy theorist, so I know that what they tell you and what happens are two different things.
That's so true.
I couldn't have been more right, but it blows my mind that even in court, Mosley's just, it's just a week. Hey, boy, do you understand that that's not a power a government is supposed to have? I didn't vote for this. Did you? Did you vote the power to the government to say that they can freeze our bank accounts because they... And this is the problem, and you're so nice about it. I can't believe that you're still smiling about it. You're a lot better than I am. I would have lost my shit.
Well, it's just, I believe in, doing what's right. That's what I've always tried to do in my life. Do what's right. Follow your heart, follow your gut. And in the end, things will work out. And that's how I kind of roll. And the fact that they froze my bank accounts, yeah, that was devastating. But I think more so than that, I mean, that's one thing. You got your money frozen, but what it did to me is permanently violate the trust I have in authority.
Yeah.
I don't trust police. I don't trust government. I don't trust, other than people close to me. That circle of trust is small.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of thing I think kind of the younger generation just almost instinctively has that mistrust. But you're retired, so I don't know, you could be, you don't look a day over 35.
Oh yeah. I thought you were going to say, "Don't I look good for 80?" Thanks, I appreciate that.
60 probably are, close.
Yeah, he's totally frozen. I don't know for you, but he's totally frozen on my screen.
I'm frozen.
So Rob, no, not you. I can hear you. We're having a conversation right now, but Rob is completely frozen.
Oh,
you got
we,
okay.
yeah,
you got
we.
Me?
Now you're back, but you
now
froze
you
at about. You don't look a day over 30. So
yeah.
Went
I
to
was
like
saying you don't
20
look.
seconds.
I was saying you don't look a day over 35, but let's just say you're probably retired or of boomer age, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, that's a swear word in my world.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. I like to think of myself, like, yeah, I am a boomer, but I'm a unicorn in boomers because I'm not part of that generation. I don't think like that.
I was going to say, because they're kind of the last group that really has trust in the government still. Obviously you're sort of a different type of thinker than sort of the rest of that group. But yeah, it really is, it is these things that destroy trust in the government. And I know what you mean. I would also like to trust the government. I do have I'm not so cynical that I've lost all trust and authority in government, but I have in this one, and in this government, and this, the way authority is wielded today. And it just seems so short-sighted to me, because I don't see how they can't see the harm they're doing to themselves. And by they, I mean, the government, when they do things like this. So what's next for you guys? This isn't over for you, right?
No, well, we're waiting to see if the Supreme Court will actually grant leave for this appeal that they've submitted. It's still, up in the air whether that'll happen or not. There's a lot of difficulties with the Supreme Court doing that. As you know, you've probably seen some of the articles in the past few days since it came out about Justice Wagner, the Chief Justice, how he commented about the trucker convoy back in 2022. Generally, you would think a Supreme Court, especially, the Chief Justice, would stay out of the political arena in public, but he didn't. So he's basically given his opinion about the trucker convoy. So my thought is, how can we get fair representation in front of the Supreme Court when he's clearly violated that neutrality?
Yeah. 100%.
There's so much wrong with this case. There's nothing right about this case, and the fact that it's still going on just proves that they messed up. They're doubling down on it. They just don't want people to know how bad they messed up. Because as you guys have been talking about, there are some people out there that still have trust in the government. I don't. I haven't had trust in the government for 25 years, 30 years.
Right.
And there's always been kind of an understanding that maybe some people are okay. But the fact that nobody is standing up for you is what bothers me. Because if you look at the political spectrum right now, it don't matter where you look. People are saying are not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. Like I just posted before we came on the show to say, while everybody's thinking about Pierre Poilievre and how he's on the Joe Rogan show, people are missing that our government is trying to appeal the decision when they were found to use the Emergencies Act illegally and unconstitutionally, and also that the CCFR, as the Supreme Court has agreed to hear their case on the $2,500 firearm models and types that they banned overnight through order of council. So another thing that should be illegal. This is not what it was meant for. You're not supposed to be able to write blank comments like this and just say, no debate, no parliament, no nothing. Yet, who's talking about it? Nobody. Everybody's concerned about Pierre Poilievre being on Joe Rogan a year and a half too late. This is what it does not matter. Does that frustrate you when you look at both, like all the sides, and you're like, what's happening here?
People don't care. They just don't care. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't affect me. What time's American Idol on? That's exactly, basically the attitude. You know, oh, that sucks to be that guy. You know, they're just afraid to stick their head up. I think probably 85% of our population is captured in their mindset, and you know, they're given propaganda every day through the legacy media, and they believe it. And you know, maybe that's, you know, that's something that is really not their fault. It's just that's where they get their information, so they're led to believe it. But anyone that tries to show them another view to whatever point it may be, they're not willing to entertain that idea or look at it, because it's all fake. You know, it's you're just a conspiracy theorist. You're a, you know, I've been called, I got called by the Attorney General, I got called a Nazi and a white supremacist. So
where did that
what do they base that on?
Yeah.
You know,
well, you're white, so obviously you're racist.
Yeah.
Is that not how it works now?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're white and not a liberal, not even a liberal, but like a far leftist, if you're not a woke idiot, then yeah, you must be a white supremacist. And it's crazy that they don't just accept the loss, just take the L and move on. Like, I can't believe they're
I think this is bad for Carney. I really do. You know, he had a chance to separate himself from Justin Trudeau.
Sure,
a lot of the same players are still involved in the government, but a lot of the main tyrants that were involved with the Emergency Act and so on, they got fired upwards, I guess. They all got promotions into, you know, to become ambassadors,
Freeland.
you know. But this was his chance to separate himself from Justin Trudeau. Now, they didn't acknowledge the court cases whatsoever, but now by doing this, it shows that he's the flip side of Justin Trudeau and that he was the man behind the curtain. And
but that's a fact.
And
he's been he's been his economic advisor since at least 2021, and that's reported in mainstream media. That's not a conspiracy newspaper hiding somewhere. No, that was CBC talking about the fact that, oh, Justin Trudeau's getting advice from an international banker, quite the economist. So you know that he was part of this. You know that he was involved in that whole thing. And I've been saying that to people from the get-go. If you read Values by Mark Carney, you realize that he's not an idiot. That guy's actually extremely intelligent. He is evil, dangerous when you read his book, but you understand everything that he's doing. And considering what you've been through, considering that it looks like it's not done, they're just doubling down. Do you think it's all connected to the Bill C8C, to the Bill C2, C8, C9, C12, C16, C22, and a new Bill C63? Because I cannot stop thinking about, imagine now that Bill C9 is going to become a reality. It's going to be in committee probably next week, going to be voted on in one day. It's going to become law very soon. Can you imagine if Bill C9 would have been in place when the Freedom Convoy happened? They could have arrested thousands of people on the spot for a hate speech.
They could have.
Are you following the bills, Eddie?
Oh yeah, very
okay.
Closely.
So, gotcha.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, the thing is, he's about to get a majority government through, you know, backhanded deals. Yeah. Or
he actually got it.
If he has to, he'll go to an election. But make no mistake, they're going for all of it. So think about it. All of these bills, when in history have the guys that came for your guns, for your free speech and everything else ever been the good guys?
Yeah.
Never. So they will target their political enemies, and if they pass C22, where they can just inject into all of your personal devices and go to your internet providers and your cell providers and so on, and just get all of your records and all your information. Who's to say that they wouldn't insert something into your, your device, and then say, hey, this guy's done this, or this, but you didn't even know it was there, but they planted it in.
Sure.
People don't read their bills. That was part of Bill C2. That now they're pushing. They have expanded Bill C2 into Bill C12.
Yep.
It's a smaller version of Bill C2, but then Bill C22 has that component that was part of Bill C2, where
Correct.
they are allowed to install spyware. It's basically called spyware on whatever equipment that you own, listen, record you, and keep the information for themselves, and they don't say for what reason.
I get friends, that maybe aren't as aware of what's going on. Thank God they're still my friends. They don't malign me, but Eddie, come on, that's never going to happen. You're just, it's a conspiracy. You're just full of conspiracy theories, but they don't. When you try to show them, they don't want to hear it. They
don't want to see it.
No. And
but how do they explain that they froze your bank account? This is not a conspiracy theory. That happened to you.
Well, what I get is, well, you must have done something. Well, what did I do? Yeah. Well, you were at the trucker convoy. Yeah, but it was legal. I didn't break the law. I wasn't charged with the crime.
It's a protest.
I wasn't arrested.
Even if you didn't agree with what the protest was about. I don't agree with the pro-Palestine protest, but I don't think they should be arrested or have their bank accounts frozen.
You're right. Exactly. We had another lawsuit going on, and one of the people who had their bank accounts frozen was from British Columbia, and her and her son had their accounts frozen, and they disagreed totally with the trucker convoy. They wanted nothing to do with it, but they had their bank accounts frozen.
Wow.
It was just crazy.
And
the one fact that people don't know, and it's never been published in the media, and I won't give names, but we know of a couple of individuals that had their bank accounts frozen, actually took their life because their bank accounts were frozen.
Wow.
Imagine.
Wow.
But I can understand. I can understand if
sure.
That's one thing that a lot of Canadians don't understand is most people are about $2,000 or $3,000 away from declaring bankruptcy. If they lose their job, they're screwed. Most people live paycheck to paycheck. This is not we don't live in the reality of the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, where most people had money saved. This is not the reality anymore. 25% of Canadians live in a world where they're food insecure. 1 out of 4 Canadian is food insecure, has skipped meals in order to make sure they could pay for their mortgage. This is the situation in which we live. That means they don't have anything in the bank account sitting there just in case something happens. They don't have thousands of dollars sitting under their mattress in case the government chooses to freeze your accounts. That's a reality. Yeah. So not having money, not being able to pay, what happens if you have young children? Like
there's all kinds of reasons. Who's to say you don't have a bill coming out that's due 2 days from now? That's super important bill, a mortgage.
Everybody was locked down. They couldn't go to work for almost 2 years at the time. They were probably the person that took their life, a few actually, were probably already in financial distress because of that. Maybe they didn't have the type of job they could work from home. They didn't have unemployment insurance. Everything had run out, and they donate $50 to the trucker convoy, and then you get your bank accounts frozen. The trucker convoy was like a last bastion of hope for thousands of people across the country because things were getting so dark and draconian. It didn't seem to be opening up. And that was probably just enough to push them over the edge,
Crazy.
And you saw right across the country, people lining the roads and the bridges, waving flags, and but think about it. A week after the trucker convoy, all the mandates came down.
Yeah.
And it happened around the world. That trucker convoy. Now it wasn't me. I was just in the background supporting, working with the team in the background, doing logistics and helping out. The truckers were the guys that got it done. But I think they saved thousands of lives around the world by doing that. And it opened our country and many other countries around the world. It showed the rest of the world that if you protest peacefully, right, that that's how you get it done. And we exposed the government for the tyrants that they were. They came in with the all the king's horses and all the king's men and came in heavy-handed and beat people. We had veterans that were arrested. I don't know if you know the story of Chris Deering. Maybe I'm getting a little carried away here. He stood in as veterans. Everybody was standing in between the protesters and the police, and to be a voice of reason, to say this doesn't have to go this way. And Chris, who's a decorated Afghanistan vet, he was the lone survivor in his team. 5 were killed. He was blown up by a roadside bomb. He just said to the police in front, he said, "Listen, if you want to arrest me, I'll go peacefully. All I ask is you don't hurt me. I'm a severely wounded veteran." He was the first guy they pulled out. 3 big goons grabbed him, were punching him in the head, kneeing him in the gut, pounding him in his kidneys, and kicking him like hell. And then they took guys in their trucks and drove them around recklessly, bouncing around in the back of the paddy wagon in -20, and then dropped everybody off in a field in the middle of nowhere in -20. That's how
crazy.
That's how people got treated. And people don't hear about that in the rest of Canada. These are guys that were standing there with their Afghanistan medals and all the medals. And this is how they got treated, for standing up as a dissenting voice, offering no violence or resistance. They get treated like they were thugs. It's disgusting. I'm sorry to get carried away on that, but
no. I didn't know that story. That is disgusting.
Very, very emotional for a lot of our guys. And because of that, all of what took place, that's how Veterans for Freedom was started, because all the veterans that came to Ottawa, most of them were there because of, giving a vaccine that, like Molothiquin, that, had side effects, and they were there because of that. And they were there to be the voice of, we need to open up. This is wrong. And so we came together and formed this organization. We got 3,500 members across the country. Jeff Evely is one of them. And we're 4 years in, but I guess it's kind of like, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That just seems to be the way things are going. They want to crush the trucker convoy and everyone and everything that had anything to do with it. And so you'll never do it again. Never. And they're going to give law enforcement and the military and everybody else the tools they need to make people too afraid to speak up.
Eddie, I'm going to have to book you again so that we can go for more than half an hour, because we do have another guest joining us. I'm pretty sure she's in the back room right now. Yes, she is. Oh, she's shaking her head. Also, didn't she hear us? So, but I definitely want to have you back on. So I'll stay in touch, and you definitely need to let us know what's happening with your court case with the Supreme Court. If something happens with the appeal, I'm definitely interested in having you back on. But Eddie, thank you very much for what you're doing.
Much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure.
I appreciate you. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Have a good night, Eddie. Before we get to our next guest, I need to talk about our sponsor. This show is brought to you by Miss Cleo's Pet Treats, 100% natural dog treats made right here in Canada. Not only are they handmade, but they're sourced locally from meats in Manitoba. None of that Chinese crap that you buy at the grocery store. So if you think your dog deserves better, go to cleoscookiesandtreats.ca. Use the discount code Political Orphans and get 20% off your entire order. Just look in the description below, the website, the discount code is all there. On that note, we are joined by CCFR's VP of Public Relations, Tracy Wilson, to speak about the decision of the Supreme Court of Canada to finally hear their appeal. Tracy, welcome. Thank you for contacting me saying, hey, where's my calendar invite? I appreciate you remembering, because I swear I sent it. But thank you for being here, Tracy.
Oh, no problem at all. I've actually left.
Again, Tracy.
Yeah, it's nice to see you guys too. I've actually left Rod sitting at the airport, so I have to go pick him up. But I was like, Rod, I've got this interview, and if I leave,
he's sitting there right now, being like, Tracy?
Yeah, he just flew in from Vancouver. We're here in Toronto for the Sportsman Show. But
nice.
Yeah, I was actually driving from Ottawa to Toronto this morning when I got the news out of the Supreme Court that they are going to hear our case. And of course, this is a big deal for gun owners. This is the first time in history that a firearms group has been able to take a case all the way to the Supreme Court. So yeah, it's not over. It's not over till it's over. And yeah, we're very excited. I'm not going to lie. I actually had, I lost a lot of sleep last night thinking about this day and the decision and waiting to find out if we would even get to be heard. And I left my house in Ottawa this morning at 6, got on the highway on my way to Toronto. And when I got the news, I got a text from Rod, and then I got a text from Christine Genereux. She's the self-rep who's also in this battle with us. And you should interview her. She is a total freedom fighter.
Okay.
And
All I need is an introduction. All I need is an
I'm
introduction.
going to set you up with her because she's great. And she's not a lawyer, but she should be. But it was a little bit emotional for me because I'm tired. It's been 10 years of hell fighting this government. And I was just so happy for gun owners to get this opportunity to take our case to the Supreme Court. I actually had to pull over. And when I pulled over on the side of the 401, I called Rod and he listened to me and he's like, "Wilson, are you crying?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe I'm just tired." Or
There's no crying in baseball.
yeah,
Allergies.
I'm crying
Allergies.
tears of joy because I was so happy that we're going to have this opportunity to get justice for gun owners. So,
Tracy, could you give us just a little? Because last time you were here, we mostly talked about the gun grab. Could you just give us a little backstory on the specifics of this case?
Yeah, that's right. So we're challenging the legality of using an OIC, an order in council, which is basically like an executive order in the States, in order to do something as big as a huge sweeping gun ban, which they've done 3 of them now. And it's our position that that is not the intended purpose of an OIC, which is usually used to implement smaller measures within a bill. Like when, for example,
is that similar to an executive order?
It's exactly like an executive order. So normally they're used for things like when C-71 passed its legislation, it received royal assent, and then there was individual measures within that bill. That is what you would normally use an OIC for, not for something like this. Because of course, what it does is it evades the entire parliamentary process. There's no debate in the House of Commons. There's no study by committee. There's no hearing from expert witnesses. And worst of all, there's no vote. So there's no democratic process there for Canadians. Basically, they just say, this is it. We're making this decision. And of course, they did that with a minority government. There was no vote. There was no way to argue it. So our only avenue for any kind of relief, of course, was the courts. And we've taken this through the federal court, through the appeals court, and now we're headed to the Supreme Court. So, yeah,
because you got denied in 2023, right? If
well,
I
we
remember correctly.
took it to federal court and appeals court, and we lost in both of those. But we believe that those judges made an error in their interpretation of the law. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court is for. And, you know, I think this case is of interest to all Canadians. It's not just about guns. It's about the fact that I think we need an answer to that question. Can the government step into your life, and in this case, right into our homes, and confiscate legally acquired property that we've owned safely and without issue for decades, if not generations, and we've done nothing to warrant it? Can the government do that to us? Because if they can do that to us, they can do anything they want to any of you. Yep. So this is an important national question. It's in the national interest.
We were just, I don't know if you noticed, but we had Eddie Cornell, which was one of the original 4 that went to, that got one of his bank accounts, that got his bank account frozen, that sued the federal government and actually won. And now they're reappealing the case. Of course, but this is why it's very interesting that I got both of you guys together, because you both are going against the federal government. You're both going through the Supreme Court, and I'm so happy that they're hearing you, because you're absolutely right. And this is what's brilliant about them listening to your cases. Does the government have the power without any debate to take property, personal property that is deemed legal, overnight with no debate? Because that's what Trudeau did after the 2020 massacre in Nova Scotia. He literally banned he waited 2 weeks, banned 1,500 types of firearms and models overnight, no debate, just order in council.
Yeah.
And I agree, this is not what it's supposed to be used to.
No.
This is supposed to be debated, but that it connects. It's the same guy that that used the Emergencies Act illegally and unconstitutionally. So the fact that those two cases are going to be potentially in front of the Supreme Court at the same time is not good news for our government.
No, and I mean, like, look, I'm a reasonable person, you know. I know the liberals like to paint me as some kind of extremist. I'm literally a Chihuahua-owning grandma from the suburbs. I just want the government out of my life. We've done nothing to deserve this, right? And to think that this is the way you treat possibly hundreds of thousands of citizens who've done nothing but follow every law, every rule, every regulation, regardless of how ridiculous they are. And in the end, it doesn't matter. You're still going to do this to us. Forget it. It's like, we promised gun owners we'd take it all the way, and we meant it. So we're not going to stop. And it doesn't matter what it takes. There is no fight too big for the CCFR.
Do you consider it somewhat of a win just to even be heard? Like, what were your odds on that?
Oh, well, I mean, the Supreme Court hears somewhere between 6 and 10% of the cases that are in front of them. So you got like a 94% chance that you're not even going to be heard. So people were asking me, well, what do you think? You know, do you think we'll get heard? And of course I told them yes, but I'll be honest, in the back of my mind, I wasn't sure I believed that, but I have to give people hope, you know? And so getting that call today, that's why I think it was so powerful and overwhelming for me, because it was just some sort of vindication that, yes, if the Supreme Court looked at the decision out of the federal court and the appeals court and said, no, those are good decisions, then they wouldn't bother hearing it, right? That's my understanding.
Yeah, it's because they're not, you said it's 6 to 10%, but they're not just randomly picking. They're looking at the merits and choosing. So there must be some, they must think there's some value to hearing this case.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a bunch of criteria to go to the Supreme Court. And one of the most important pieces is it in the national interest? Is this an interest to the majority of Canadians? And of course, like I just said, I believe that this should concern everybody.
One of the things that it also affects is the gun ban. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but from the research that I was doing earlier, you guys are also arguing of the deadline of October 30th, 2026, because you want this case to be heard, resolved, whatever has to happen in the Supreme Court. The ban, the amnesty, the end of the amnesty should not happen before this case is resolved in front of the Supreme Court. Because you basically overnight, if you win overnight, is basically those bans are gone.
That's correct. So the amnesty cannot end before we get a decision. So we are perfectly poised for an injunction to put a stay on this. And of course, that's why I've been asking people not to fill out their declarations. Anybody who has filled out their declaration is sort of out of luck. They're going to start confiscations next week on that. So the rest of us who have refused to fill out those declarations and have held the line, we may benefit from whatever the result in the Supreme Court is. And either way, it's still going to kick that can down the road some considerable time. I mean, we waited 9 months for a decision on whether or not they'd even hear us. So you can imagine how slow the process is. And I'm perfectly fine with that. So yes, that will be one of the first things our legal team does, of course, is apply for that injunction. And I believe it was actually even mentioned in their decisions. So
it was, the information I'm getting is from the ruling of them hearing your appeal.
Yes.
So what is oh, sorry, go ahead, Tracy.
Well, I was just going to say they will have to extend the amnesty to match up not only with the decision out of the Supreme Court, the eventual final decision, but even if we lose that, it's like they're back to ground zero, where they're like, okay, we got to start up the gun ban again and figure out how to take your guns. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what that timeline looks like. But if it took 9 months to even get an answer whether or not they'd hear us, I don't imagine that there'll be a very quick turnaround on this. So delays are good. And at the same time, you're right. If we win, then that's it. That OIC, those gun bans are deemed illegal. They're overturned and everything goes back to normal. So,
Wow.
And that would prevent other governments from doing it too, because you're setting a precedent.
we'd have a Supreme
on-
Court precedent. Yes.
It is very important that you
news,
guys
yeah.
are getting heard. You're being heard is a massive deal.
Yeah. That's why it took me 3 lanes, swinging across 3 lanes on the 401 to stop the car to really take in what just happened. So yeah, very big deal. And of course, being here at the Toronto Sportsman Show for the next, well, today was day 1. We have 3 more days to go, but 4 days of delivering this good news instead of the other way around means all the difference to our membership for sure.
So what kind of time frame are we looking at? Do you know when they're going to hear this case and then when they'll make a decision?
No, they haven't provided any timeline, but as far as I'm concerned, they could take their sweet time now. Once we get that injunction to put a stay on this, then it brings everything to a grinding halt. And that's exactly what I want to see. So,
and the injunction will probably be approved just based on precedent and how this stuff works.
Yeah, like I said, they suggested it and the Supreme Court mentioned it in their decision.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, the information I was talking about was pulled from the actual ruling of the Supreme Court. So I was laughing when I saw that last week. That's why I reached out right away. As soon as I knew you guys would receive your decision today, I knew good or bad news, we had something to talk about, but I'm surprised. I gotta say, I was surprised this morning when I saw you guys post that you're gonna get heard. I'm like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh yeah.
What's happening?
Well, I was terrified. Like I said, I couldn't sleep last night. I felt sick to my stomach. I'm not a person who gets upset or gets anxiety, but I definitely felt it. And it's a big deal because if they had said, forget it, we're not going to bother with you people and leave everything as is, like we're running out of cards and we're running out of time. So this is just, it was like a wave of joy that kind of came over me. And I mean, there's still a battle ahead and it's going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of work. But we promised people we would fight it all the way and we meant it. So we're just going to keep going.
Take as long as you need. I agree with you on that one. The longer, the better.
I'm in no hurry now. Yeah. Give us that injunction and then whatever, do whatever you want.
Hold the line. Your expression that you're always using. We've had you on the show like 5 times now. You say it every time. Hold the line just makes even more sense now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what I talked to somebody today at the show and he said, I got scared when I got the emails from the RCMP and, I went in and I declared my firearms. Like, what can I do now? And I know there is some sort of process to withdraw your declaration, but I don't know how that's going to work for him. And I know that they are planning. I actually spoke to somebody today who works with law enforcement, and they are planning on using reserve RCMP officers to collect firearms from the people who have declared. So they're not going to wait on those ones. Anybody who's declared is going to be contacted and have an appointment made to gather up their guns. And it's kind of too late for them. So my heart breaks because I get it. That was the point, is they were trying to scare you. But yeah, hold the line, because the rest of us, I've got firearms that they know about. They were previously restricted, so therefore registered. They know about them. And I mean, I'm not going to counsel people to break the law or anything like that, but you are protected by that amnesty. And knowing now that it could get extended, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 2 years, nothing moves quickly in the court system, right? It just bought us a whole bunch more time, but not for the people who unfortunately have filled out the declarations.
That was a backdoor registry, in my opinion. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Well, think about what a crazy thing that is. It's, they're saying that they're going to ban and confiscate all these firearms from people, but they're like, first, fill out this form and tell us what you've got, because we have no idea. Like, what a whack job kind of program that is. Like, whoever thought of that? It's insane to think that people would do that, right? So they have numbers out today. It's just under, I think, 43,000 declarations have been filled out. And that's, there's over 2 million firearms affected. So it looks like they may end the program. It's over in a week. They may end this program with about 50,000 declarations out of 2 million. Like, what a colossal failure, and they're still clinging to it. They're bragging about those numbers. It's just mind-boggling, these people.
And Caliber Magazine's article indicating that it was costing $25,000 per firearm that was registered through their portal, and
Before they even collect them.
23,200 because of administrative fees. $1,800 is the average that Canadians were getting. Yet I think you posted something for a Type 91. I think it was. The guy got $2.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, though, before I allow you to go get Rod. Sorry, Rod.
I know. He texts me. He's like, I'm out whenever you're done. That's okay. He'll see this.
I have one more question for you I have to ask, considering what happened in Vaughan this week, because that was another big deal where we had a legal gun owner shoot in the gut one of the 3 guys that invaded his house, and the York police said no charges will be laid. How did you feel about that?
Well, it's a little bit of FAFO moment going on there. I mean, look, the very best way.
It took me a second. I'm like, did she just say that?
Yes, I did. But look, the very best way to avoid getting shot by a homeowner in the gut at 4:00 in the morning is to not kick in their door and try and rob them. There's a very simple solution here. Stop breaking the law, So yeah, I mean, the problem is we already have the right to defend our life. And a lot of people misinterpret that, but it is codified in the Criminal Code of Canada under Section 34. And a lot of people misunderstand. Well, you have to use, if they have a knife, you can only use a knife. No, that is not true. None of that is true. However, the problem is the process is the punishment. And usually, even if you, in the end, if you have a positive outcome, you end up losing your job, losing your home, going in debt, paying for lawyer fees, going through the legal system. And it's an absolute train wreck on your life that you didn't ask for. And that's what this guy gets to avoid. And yeah, I mean, watching Doug Ford, he's not my favorite, but he's being crucified in the media by the left for saying the things that he said about it, right? He said, oh, you should have shot him a few more times. Doug Ford is just saying what the rest of us are thinking, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing you've got is your life. Without it, it's done. Your kids are done. Your wife's done. What are they going to do without you, right? It is incumbent on you to keep yourself and your family alive at all costs. And I've believed in that my whole life. Nothing will ever change my mind. And again, the very easiest way you can avoid getting yourself in trouble with a homeowner at 4:00 in the morning is to stop kicking in their doors and trying to rob them. Just don't do that.
Because there's nothing I won't do to protect my family. Nothing.
There's nothing in my house worth dying for. So,
Yep. But one of the things I've said many times is if you break into my house in the middle of the night uninvited, you surrendered your life. Whatever happens, happens. But that's on you. I did not choose. I'm going to react to it. I'll talk to God later on. But in that moment, I'm not looking for a good amount of force that I won't be judged for. I'll deal with the threat as I see fit. You can't know. You can't know.
Yeah, think about that. It's 4:00 in the morning. You've got these armed thugs in masks kicking in your door or busting through your door. They're carrying guns. What are you going to sit down and have a conversation and ask them, what's the percentage of chance that you're going to hurt me or maybe just steal my TV? Come on. It's not realistic, right? So to me, I feel like the pendulum is sort of swinging. Because you could talk about self-defense 10 years ago and be called an extremist, right? They'd say, oh, you're nuts. And now it's a totally mainstream conversation. Unfortunately, I'm not celebrating it. It's a indictment on our failed public safety policies. But look, you're either on the side of good law-abiding people who are just trying to live their life and enjoy the peace and quiet of their home, or you're on the side of the thugs kicking in doors and killing people. It's as simple as that. There's no in between. So choose a side.
And luckily for this guy, you can see on the outside camera that the guy had what looked like a 9mm. It was chrome, so it can catch in the light. You see it very well.
Yes.
But at the same time, I was explaining that we had Blair Hagen from the NFA yesterday, and I'm a martial artist. I trained for 20 years. I used to fight in a ring, but I also did Krav Maga after I stopped fighting as an amateur to understand what real combat is. What do they teach the military? I don't care who you are, how trained you are. If 3 guys are on you, it's not like in the movies.
No.
We trained this and we were covered in bruises and we know how to fight.
Yeah.
So imagine 3 guys in your house, you just woke up, you don't know what's going on. I don't care that you're empty-handed. I don't care if you have knives. I don't care if you have guns. If I have my guns, you're getting shot. If I have my knife, you're getting stabbed. I don't care. I'm not here to have a conversation, and it's a lot. It's not like in the movies. If you fight 3 guys, I don't care how good you are, it's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt.
Oh yeah. And even a knife is terrifying, actually. Like the damage somebody
Scares
can
me
do
more.
to you. Yeah, it's actually like the damage that can be done with a big knife being swung around. It can be absolutely life-changing, you know, even if you survive.
Machetes are one of the things that worried me the most, because a gun you can grab. That's one thing. Once you understand how to defend yourself, I can put my hands on a gun. If you shove your gun in my face, awesome, because I can take it away from you. I can't do that with a knife. All you have to do is take the blade away. I lost my fingers. My hand's open. I'm stuck. And if you saw stabbings, it's 30, 40, 50 times in a row. It's not just like in the movie where you're getting slapped. It's brutal. Knives scared the hell out of me. I agree with you completely on that one.
Yeah, knives
it's
are
gonna
terrifying.
suck. It's going to hurt. No matter what, it's going to hurt. But Tracy, congratulations on the hearing, I guess, because at least they're going to hear you guys. So
at least they're going to
congratulations.
hear us. Yeah, I didn't expect that. So it's a huge big deal, and it's a win for gun owners. And look,
100%.
every single person who supported the CCFR, who's bought a membership or donated, shared our content, it's your win too. This is not about Rod. It's not about me. It's not even about the legal team. It's about gathering together citizens who are saying, you know what, enough is enough. None of us could have done this on our own, first of all, financially. But when you band together, it shows how strong you can be, right? So yeah, a big shout out to everyone who supported us, because this is for them.
Thank you, because it affects me. So
Yes.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm just very happy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you guys are doing. Hopefully we get to have Rod at one point. We get to have you guys on at the same time.
We should have done this an hour later, and then I could have got him in here too. But yeah, I'm gonna go pick him up at the airport, and I'll get him to watch us back and say, this is why I was late picking you up.
Thank him for his patience.
Yes, I will. That guy's got crazy patience. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Tracy, thank you, and enjoy the show over the weekend.
Thanks a lot. See you later, Nico.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. 2 awesome guests today. We had Eddie Cornell, veteran, got his bank account frozen during the convoy, fought the government and actually won in the Supreme Court. It's getting appealed, but we'll see what happens. So thank you, Eddie, for being on the show. We had Tracy Wilson from the CCFR to speak about the fact that the Supreme Court will hear their appeal, which is a massive deal, because as we said, this is not just for gun owners, but the fact is that they use the Northern Council, in my opinion, illegally, not the right way. That's not what it was meant to be used for, not to ban regular people, law-abiding citizens' property. So the fact that they're hearing this could be a big deal. This could put a complete stop to the ban, at least during the time of the court case. So this is actually great news. We don't get to speak about great news very often, but that is definitely one of them. And the man in Vaughan that shot home intruders and that will have no charges against him, at least for the time being, that is, because we all know that that could change. But for the time being, no charges. Those are two good news in the same week, and we got to take them when we get them, right? So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for joining us. We had 7 guests over the past 4 days. This is definitely the most I've ever booked on this show. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for showing up. As Rob says all the time, one of the best ways you can support us is just by continue to show up. So guys, if you've enjoyed the show, make sure to like, make sure to comment. Even if you're not live, comment, because I look at all of those comments. If you believe in what we do, subscribe to the channel at The Political Orphans. Make sure to share our content and show up if you want. There is a buy me a coffee at the top left of your screen if you want to support us. There is a membership program off of my YouTube at Real Nico Lagan if you want to support us there. But we just want to see you guys back. We want to see your comments. We want to hear from you. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being here. And we will see you on Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, have a great weekend. We'll see you on Sunday. Peace.